Hello, Math 45 students. This is your instructor. We are going to pick up on page 5, section 4.2, Modeling with Linear Functions. So the first example says, an airplane cruises at an altitude of 35,000 feet. It begins its descent at a rate of 1,200 feet per minute. Find a linear model in the form h of t is equal to mt plus b, where h represents the altitude of the plane in feet after t minutes into its descent. So the fact that it specifically says that we want it in this form because it's a linear model. So you're just like, okay, that's exactly what I want. So my goal is to write it such that I have a value for m and a value for b. So we need to find your values for your m and your b. Remember that your m is your slope, or better yet, your rate. And also we have our b as our y-intercept. So in a word problem, it can be your initial value, or it can also be your flat fee. It can also just be your starting point. So now you have three different words that can represent your b. Your b is your y-intercept, which can be your initial value, your flat fee, or your starting point. And you have your slope as your m variable, and it's also your rate. So let's think about this for just a bit. So it specifically says that the airplane cruises at this altitude. It begins its descent at a rate of this much. So the fact that it says rate, well, that should be a really big clue whenever you see rate that that's going to be your slope. So here my m is going to equal to 1,200, okay? So we always really try to pay attention to those clue words. Now for your y-intercept, well, the only other number that they give us, and it says that the airplane is cruising at this amount. So that's going to be your starting point. So that tells me that my b value is going to be 35,000. So now when I'm rewriting this equation, I have h of t is equal to my m value, which is that 1,200. And I have my variable t plus, and my b value is going to be that 35,000. And that ends up becoming my final answer. So here, it wasn't, oops. Sorry, I lost that there. So it wasn't so much that I needed to find any or do any computations, I just needed to find my values. And one important thing that I wanted to point out is I skipped over the word descent. That descent means that it's going down. So this means that it's a negative value. So because it's a negative value, it really tells us that our m is negative. So really, you can think of this as saying h of t is equal to a negative 1,200 t plus 35,000. And the reason for that is because you have that word descent, so you're really thinking about the m value being negative, okay? So the m value is going to be negative. See how one word can really change your values. So you really want to be careful and not go too fast, okay? All right, so for our next example, it says a recycling center offers students $20 for the first 10 pounds of cans and bottles brought in. An additional 15 cents per pound over 10 pounds. Write a linear function that models the amount a student can earn A in dollars as a function of P, the number of pounds over 10 that a student brings in. So remember, we want to make sure that we write this as a linear function, and it says that models the amount a student can earn A in dollars as a function of P. So that means that my outline, well, whenever I say linear function, I'm thinking about y is equal to mx plus b. That's a linear equation. But now, because of the variables, I have a and I have p, then I'm going to rewrite it as a of p is equal to my px plus b. Okay, so I need to figure out my slope, and I need to figure out my b value, my y-intercept. So here it says that a recycling center offers students $20 for the first 10 pounds of cans and bottles brought in, and an additional 15 cents per pound over 10 pounds. So that per is a really good indication that that's going to give me my rate. So my rate is going to be my slope. And in this equation, my slope is going to be P. Or let's just not get confused. It's really talking about my P value here. Oh yeah, because this is actually MP. There we go. That makes more sense. Our slope is still M, but the input value is P. Okay. So we definitely have our M value. So M is going to equal to a 0.15. That is my 15 cents. Now for the next thing, for my initial value, that's going to be my $20. So my initial amount, which is B, is going to be my $20. So now I have my M and my B. I have all the important pieces of information that I need. So A of P is equal to my M value, which is that 0.15. And this is where I have the P, okay? And then plus 20. So it's all making sense of our variables here. All right, so now let's go into our next example. It says in 2004, a magazine circulation was about 1 million readers. In 2014, the magazine had about 2 million readers. Write a linear model that shows the number of readers are of the magazine T years after 2000. So again, our key word here is a linear model. So when I think about linear model, that's the y is equal to mx plus b. And they specifically want us to write it in R and T, which is fine. So just remember that usually when I have my values, it's usually x and y. So here, it wants us to have time, and time is always going to be independent, okay? No matter what, one day will always be 24 hours. It doesn't matter if I go to the gym. It doesn't matter if I sit at home. It doesn't matter if I go to the park. It doesn't matter if I have a deadline. Still, one day is 24 hours. It's independent, okay? So your time is always going to be X. And every single word problem, if you have time, it will always be X. Now, for this particular model, we also have another variable. We want readers. So our reader, we want it to be R, and our time, we want T for time. So really, those are going to be our variables that we want, T and R, okay? And now, we want to make sure that we understand that it's years after 2000. So if I have the year 2004, well, how many years is that after 2000? So if I have the year 2004, I'm going to subtract from it the year, which is 2000. So I'm going to get 4. That tells me T is equal to 4 is equal to the year 2004. So I'm going to have the year here as 4. So in 2004, the circulation was about 1 million readers. So So 1 million is 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is my 1 million. Now, the other value that I have is 2014. So if I have 2014, I have to subtract from it the year 2000, since it's the years since it'll be the years after 2000. So I am going to get this as 14. So now I know that T is equal to 14 represents my 2014 year. So I'm going to have 14 as my T value. And then now I have 2 million readers. So that's going to be what I have. So if I want to think about it as ordered pairs, I can. And maybe it might help you to rewrite it visually. So now I can label this as x1, y1, x2, and y2. Now remember that my M formula would be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So in this particular case, I'm going to have my y2 value. So my y2 value is going to be my 2 million. And I'm going to subtract from it my 1 million. And my denominator, I will have my x2, which is 14. And it'll subtract my x1 value, which is my 4. So when I simplify this on my calculator, I'm going to get 100,000. So now I have that my M is equal to 100,000. Perfect. So the next thing that I need to find, since I already found my M, what I also need to find is my B value now. So to find B, I am going to plug in an ordered pair. So I have that Y is equal to my M value. The M value I just found out was 100,000. And I have X plus B. So I'm going to pick an ordered pair. It doesn't really matter which one. You just gotta choose it. So let's say I'm going to go with the first one, okay? So I'm going to choose this ordered pair. So my Y value is 1 million. And I have my 100,000. And I'm going to multiply that by my X value. And my X value is 4. And I have my B value. So now I am going to try to figure this out. So when I multiply and subtract, I'm going to get my B value. My B value is going to equal to 600,000. Okay? So now when I put everything together, I'm going to say, well, if I were to rewrite it in the Y equals mx plus B, Y is equal to 100,000x plus my 600,000. But since it specifically wants a linear model with R and T, then I'm going to rewrite it as F of T is equal to 100,000 T plus 600,000. And so that will be my final answer. So make sure that we are using the variables correctly and we understand the process that we're doing, okay? All right, so now the next example. So it says 2 cars, each with a different volume of gas in their tanks, start moving at the same time. However, the volume of gas in their tanks is used up at different rates. Assume the volumes are changing linearly. What is the difference in gallons of their starting volumes? So the starting volume, this is going to be your initial amount which represents your B value, okay? And also when it says difference, then you're going to do a subtraction, since difference means to subtract in mathematics. So look at this table here. We have time and we have car A and car B. So you can think about it as we're going to have two different problems here. So the first problem, let's go ahead and start off with just car A. So for car A, we have our X and we have our Y value. So you can think of time as your X and you can think of your car A as your Y. So I really have 1, 17.25, and I have 5, 14.25. So this is my X1, Y1, X2, Y2. So the first thing I want to do is calculate my slope. So to calculate my slope, I'm going to get a 14.25 minus my 17.25 and 5 minus my 1. That is going to give me a negative 3/4. Or you can think about it as a negative 0.75, whichever you want to think about it, okay? So far I have that y is equal to a negative 0.75x plus b. So I need to find my b value. In order to find my b value, I need to plug in one of the ordered pairs. So why not try, let's say, the first one. So my y value there is 17.25. It's equal to a negative 0.75. And the x value there is 1. So when I add 0.75 to the other side, I'm going to say that this is going to be 18. So my initial values for car A, I have 18. So I have 18 gallons in car A to start with. Okay. Now I'm going to do the exact same process, but now I'm going to do it with car B. So I'm going to have car B over here. So for car B, again, we have our x and our y values. So I'm going to think of it as our x value is still my time, but now my y value is going to be car B. So you can think of it as I am just going to ignore my car A right now. I already have that information and I'm not going to use it again. I'm just going to be focusing on the car B. That's going to be the y that I focus on. So I have 1, 19, and I have 5, 15. So I have my x1, my y1, my x2, and my y2. So then from here, I am going to calculate my slope. So I'm going to have 15 minus 19 and 5 minus 1, and that is going to give me a negative 1. So I have y is equal to a negative 1x plus b. So here, maybe what I'll do is plug in one of my points as my x and y values. So my y value that I'm plugging in is 19. The x value that I'm plugging in is 1. So this is really 19 plus 1, which is 20. So I have 20 gallons in car B to start. So if I want the difference, since that's what it was asking me, then I have my car B, which is 20, subtracted from my car A. My car A was 18. So 20 minus 18 is 2. So the difference is 2 gallons more in car B initially. And so that is going to be my final answer. Okay. So you always want to make sure that you answer the question that it's asking you for. So now for part B, it says, after how many hours are the volumes in the tank equal? Solve analytically. So if it says to solve analytically, you might be thinking, what in the heck does that mean? It just says solve by hand. So, okay, we know a couple of things. We know that car A has the equation of y is equal to a negative 0.75x, because we had already found the slope, and our B value that we found was 18. Versus for my car B, I had y is equal to my m value, which is a negative 1x, and my b value, which is a positive 20. So when we say when are they going to be equal, then we just set each equation equal to each other. They're both y equals y equals. So I'm going to say that this is going to be 0.75x plus 18 is equal to my negative 1x plus 20. So here what I can do is I'm going to subtract 0.75x from both sides. Actually, no. I guess it doesn't really matter, but I think I just want my math to work out a little bit nicer. So I'm just going to add 1 to keep everything positive. Why not? So now I would have, oh, I see what I was doing. This was a negative 0.75x. Make sure you write it as a negative 0.75x. So now I have positive 1x minus 0.75x. So you can think of it as $1 minus 75 cents would leave you 25 cents. So then from here, I am going to subtract 18. So I'm left with a 0.25x is equal to 2. Now I'm going to divide. 2 divided by 0.25 is 8. So 8 represents the hours. After how many hours are the volumes in the tank equal? After 8 hours, they are equal. Okay. Now for part C, it says after how many hours are in the volume, after how many hours are the volumes in the tank equal? So notice how part B and part C have the exact same wording. The only thing that's different is the thing inside the parentheses. Part B says graph analytically. Part C says solve graphically. So this is where you're going to have your graphing calculator. This is why Math 45 is 4 units. It used to be 3 units, but because we have a graphing calculator that students are required to understand, it got bumped up a unit. So now it's 4 units. So you best believe we are definitely going to be using our graphing calculator. So I'm just going to write down the equation so that I don't lose it. I have that car A was y is equal to a negative 0.75x plus 18. Car B was y is equal to a negative 1x plus 20. So now I'm going to bring up my calculator. So there is my calculator. So what I have to do is I have to input both equations into the calculator. So here's my y equals. So I have a negative 0.75 x plus 18. And remember, this negative is right next to the enter. See how it's red there? That's what your enter, that's where your negative is going to be, right next to the enter. If I had pressed subtraction, notice the difference. Notice the difference between the first line and the second line. Notice how in the second line that subtraction sign is a lot bigger. That would make your graphing not compute. So you really want to make sure that you're using a negative. And it's a negative 1x plus 20. So when I press graph, I should be able to see it. If you don't see it, it's because your window is different. So notice how my x minimum is negative 10. My x max is a positive 10. And I don't know, maybe I'll go up to 20. So I have my x min as negative 10, my x max as positive 20, my y min is negative 10, and my y max, you know what, my y max, I'm just going to go ahead and say it's 30. Why not? And now let's see what that does to the graph. Now I can definitely see that the red and the blue line represent my car A equation and my car B equation. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure I understand how they are going to intersect. So in order to do that, I'm going to make my calculator do that. I'm going to go to second, trace, and I'm going to go down to the button that says intersect. So enter. So there is my first one. It's on the blue. So I'm going to press enter. So notice how the first equation is that negative 0.75x plus 18. That was my car A. So press enter. Now it jumps to the red equation. Notice how it says y2 negative 1x plus 20. So I press enter again. And it says guess. Press enter again. And now it tells me that the intersection is when x is equal to 8 and y is equal to 12. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down on my paper. And it was y is equal to 12. Yeah, I just want to make sure I grab that value correctly. So this tells me after 8 hours, but not only that, but it also tells me that after 8 hours, the volume would be 12 gallons. That's extra information, but it's still nice to know what these values represent. So x represents your hours and your y values represents the amount of gallons of gas that you have. Okay, well, I hope that makes sense. We're going on to the next example. It says at ice rinks A and B, there is a cost for admissions plus an hourly rate for skate rental. Okay, so what that is telling me that my equation is y is equal to mx plus b, because there's a cost for admissions, so that's going to be my b value, and an hourly rate, that's going to be my m value. Okay, so it's a fixed cost just to get through the door, and every hour that you want to skate is going to be a different cost. So for part A, it says how many more dollars does it cost per hour to rent skates at rink B than at rink A? So the cost per hour. So what they're asking us to do is to find the slope for each rink. And then they want us to compare, okay, or subtract. So, all right, let's think about this as well. I guess the first one, let's go ahead and start with rink A. So for rink A, I'm going to just ignore rink B for right now. Remember, your hours is always going to be your X. So think of your y as your cost. So you have the ordered pair 1, 19 and 5, 35. So now to get my slope, I'm going to have 35 minus 19 over 5 minus 1, and that's going to give me a positive 4. So now I have that y is equal to 4x plus b. So maybe what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pick this first ordered pair. So my y value is 19, and the x value that I'm plugging in is 1. So 4 times 1 is 4. 19 minus 4 is going to give me 15. So this tells me that I have y is equal to 4x plus 15. Now I'm going to look at my rink B. So for my rink B, I am not looking at rink A anymore. I still have my hours as X, but now my Y is going to be the cost for rink B. So I have my ordered pairs 1, 15 and 5, 39. So my M value is going to be 39 minus 15 over 5 minus 1. When I plug that into my calculator, I get 6. So then y is equal to 6x plus b. So I'm going to pick an ordered pair. So I always like to go with smaller numbers if possible. So I'll just go with the 1 and 15. So here my y value is a 15. And my x value is a positive 1. So 6 times 1 is 6. So 15 minus 6 is going to give me 9. So y is equal to 6x plus 9. And remember that it specifically asks us to find the cost per hour. How many more? So here, I'm really looking at my M being 4 and my M being 6. So how many more dollars does it cost per hour to rent skates at rink B than rink A? Well, this is where we're going to subtract. How many more dollars? Well, this is where I'm going to put 6, and I'm going to subtract 4. So 6 minus 4 is going to give me a grand total of 2. So $2 more is going to be my final answer. So for part B, it says for how many hours would it cost to skate at rink A equal to the cost to skate at rink B? Solve analytically. So this is when they are going to be equal. So for rink A, I have y is equal to 4x plus 15. For rink B, I have that y is equal to 6x plus 9. So I'm going to set these equal to each other. So 4x plus 15 is equal to 6x plus 9. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to subtract 4x from both sides. That is going to give me 15 is equal to 2x plus 9. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So that's going to give me 6 is equal to 2x. Now if I divide by 2 on both sides, that'll give me 3. So for 3 hours, the price would be the same. Now, we want to make sure that we do this graphically, okay? So this is where we do it on the calculator. So rink A, I have y is equal to 4x plus 15. And I have my rank B as y is equal to 6x plus 9. So remember what we did that on the calculator? It's going to be the exact same process. So I'm going to go to my y equals. To clear it, I just press clear. So for y1, I have my 4x plus 15. Down below, I have my 6x plus 9. Now I'm going to press graph. Notice how I can't really see where they cross. I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere higher. So I'm going to go to my window, and for my y max, I'm going to go to 50. Now I can definitely see it a little bit better. So sometimes you're going to have to play with the window. If you're like, oh, I can kind of see it, I think it's going to be over here, then you're going to have to adjust the window. So now to find the intersection, hopefully you guys remember how to do that. We're going to go to second, trace, go to intersect, press enter, press it twice, press enter 3 times now, and it gives you the intersection. The intersection is x is equal to 3 and y is equal to 27. So here again, my answer is 3 hours. But this is extra information, so after 3 hours, it's going to cost you $27. Okay? All right. Well, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me. Okay? Have a nice day.